Patrick at Pals. Well, we've got the 76 Old Yeller Corvette tuned. Jim, pop the hood and show us what you did on this car. This car has got a 383 and a Holley Terminator fuel injection setup. So that's a throttle body that looks like a carburetor. Car came in, and you folks remember the spark plugs were full of oil and gas. And the car was just loading up, it would not run. Jim, what'd you find out with this car?
Well, the main thing with the oil on the plugs was because they were having a problem with the throttle body, and it turns out most likely the ignition timing too. So it was over-fueling the vehicle, which it got what they call a fuel wash condition, where it was getting so much fuel in the cylinders, it was washing through the rings and allowing the oil to come up through the rings.
Okay.
But
so the car was washing the rings because it had too much fuel in it. What was causing the condition of too much fuel? What did you end up finding?
Well, what I ended up finding was just everything was just out of whack. Nothing seemed to be set right. I don't know if the distributor had turned on the customer or not, because the hold down wasn't holding it down very tight. It was further loose. And I also had a problem with the throttle cable itself. Let me pull this air cleaner off real quick. Maybe.
So folks, you can see this looks like a carburetor, but it's a throttle body.
I ended up replacing this throttle cable with this steel type that's solid, and because the original one had the old plastic type and the plastic went through it. Well, every time because of the strength of the springs on here and just bad parts, every time you stepped on the throttle, it was actually pulling the whole cable and not pulling the throttle back.
So then the system can't calibrate itself because it has no
every
base.
time he'd step on the throttle, it'd change the throttle position.
And also the distributor was not tight, right?
Yeah,
it was
the distributor
moving.
was loose, yes.
And on a system like this, the distributor is divorced from the throttle body. Now on new vehicles, the throttle body controls the distributor, or the distributor controls the throttle body, but they work in unison. On this car, this is mechanical. This is all mechanical adjustment here. This is computerized with the fuel. So every time you make an adjustment to the distributor, you have to recalibrate the throttle body, right?
Yeah, the way this system works, every time I do any kind of any kind of tuning you do to it, if you move if you change the timing a little bit, you gotta shut the car off and turn it back on and recalibrate the whole throttle body system and do a relearn. And it's kind of irritating because every time you do any kind of adjustment, if you do the adjustment for your idle adjustment, every time you do it, the computer runs on an idle air control motor. So the idle air control motor has to be set at a certain time too. So you got to go back and forth, start it, run it, adjust it, shut it off, recalibrate it every time.
So another thing that you found out too was you weren't getting the full throttle opening from inside the car.
Yeah, it's not getting full throttle opening from inside the car. So anytime he would try to calibrate it by doing his full throttle sweep, by stepping on the accelerator pedal, it wasn't calibrating it right because it wasn't going to the full open.
Now, folks, with this system on it, the car runs like a rocket. It's very responsive, but it's very difficult to set. What they call plug and play is not plug and play. It's a difficult system to get right, and we've got it right now. And this car is ready to go home. It's a beautiful 76 Corvette. You can see there's no body lines here on the front. They've taken all those out. On the back, the same thing. They've smoothed it all out. It's one of the best looking Corvettes I've ever seen. If you've got a 76 Corvette and it's got fuel injection, bring it to Pals. See you soon.